Om Bhuvaswah Tatsavitrvareण्यam Bhargo Devasya Dhiyo Yo Nah. So we are on page number 71. A queen's mind is poisoned. She stood like an old vulture on the terrace of the king's palace. And who is she? She is Mantra. Okay. Dasi, Kaikeyi ki Dasi. She was Kaikeyi's maid, born with more than just her back bent almost in two. Mantra's spirit was twisted. She stood glowering down at the celebrations below. The flower-strewn streets of Ayodhya, bursting with music and dancing at the news that Ram was to become Yuvraj tomorrow. Her tiny eyes smoldered. She seldom came up here onto the marble terrace, white as moonbeams, but this evening either the singing below or the quieter and the more persuasive voice of fate made her labor painfully up the stairs. Nobody had bothered to tell Mantra what the celebrations were about. No one thought it would interest her. She was such a lone creature and had no love for anybody. No one spoke much to Mantra. She had a foul temper, a worse tongue, and you could never tell what would set both off. But now she saw a young maid she knew skimming by with some flowers in a silver vase, singing to herself. Mantra called to the girl and asked, as sweetly as she could, in her croak of a voice, "What are the celebrations for, my dear? No one tells an old woman anything these days." The young thing replied, "Haven't you heard? Ram is to be crowned Yuvraj tomorrow." And she was away, humming a snatch of the song wafted up from the street, walking on air like the rest of Ayodhya. The girl quite missed the spasm of hatred that convulsed Mantra's coarse features. The hunchback stood on the terrace for a long time, and her cold mind plotted treachery. Finally, she hobbled down the smooth steps with remarkable alacrity and sped ungainly through the corridors she knew so well, passages she had haunted like some ghastly spectre since Dashrath had first brought his third wife to his palace. She came to Kaikeyi's apartment. The old fiend had been with the queen since she was a little princess in her father's house. Without knocking, she burst into the room where the lovely Kaikeyi lay on her bed of down, covered by a silken sheet. She lay languidly between sleep and waking, soft dreams in her eyes. "Get up, foolish woman," cried Mantra. "Only you could be asleep when doom is so near you. Blind queen, arise, or you are lost." Kaikeyi, who knew the crooked hag well, sighed in annoyance at being disturbed, but Mantra raged on. "The love of kings, dear imbecile, is like a summer stream, short-lived." Lazily, Kaikeyi propped herself up on a long, smooth arm. She asked, "What is it, Mantra? Who has wronged you now? Or are you ill? Your face is blanched. Have you a fever?" "No, I'm not ill. But your husband means to crown Ram Yuvraj tomorrow. You are a simple woman, Kaikeyi, and innocent as a child. The king deceives you with honeyed words while he saves the gifts of his deeds for Kaushalya. Ah, he is a serpent. Look how cunningly he sent Bharat away to your father, so Ram's investiture would find no opposition. Wake up, Kaikeyi. Save yourself before it is too late. Save your son's future. Dashrath means to destroy you both." But to Mantra's disgust, Kaikeyi did not hear anything beyond, "Your husband means to crown Ram Yuvraj." Dashrath's third queen loved Ram like her own son, and she undid the necklace at her throat and pressed it into Mantra's hands. Kaikeyi cried, "What wonderful news! You of all people have brought me today. My son will become the Yuvraj tomorrow. Manthra flung the priceless thing from her with a growl. She breathed. Only a fool will rejoice at her husband's love for another woman. Don't you see it is Kaushalya he has always loved? While while you he keeps to indulge his old body. Oh, what would I tell your mother if I stood before her today? At least think of your son, woman. Think that Bharat will spend the rest of his life as Ram's slave. But Kaikeyi said steadily, Ram is a prince of dharma. Why he loves me more than he does Kaushalya. And he loves his brothers so much that Ayodhya shall belong to all four princes when Ram is king. He is Dashrath's eldest son. When he has ruled for 100 years, he will crown Bharat king. Choking with frustration, Manthra said, A sea of sorrow has risen to drown you, Kaikeyi, and you don't even see it. After Ram, his son will rule Ayodhya. Bharat will be an underling, a servant, because his mother loves another woman's prince more than her own. She shook her ugly head that anyone could be so stupid. I bring you news of Kaushalya's triumph, and you reward me with a necklace? But I have lived many years more than you, young Kaikeyi. I saw you when you were born, and love you as the daughter I never had. I love your son as if he were my grandchild. She hissed her next words like an aged serpent. I tell you, once Ram sits on the throne, he will either banish Bharat or seek his death. That has been the way of kings with their brothers through the ages. Ram will keep Lakshman close to him because he is no threat to him, but not Bharat. Kaikeyi, send word to your son never to return to Ayodhya, for Ayodhya is no longer a safe place for him. Manthara waited a moment, seeing she had Kaikeyi's attention. She came out with what she had saved for the end of her tirade. All these years, you were the king's favorite, and you ignored Kaushalya because your head was swollen. You insulted her time and again, and she bore it all patiently, biding her time. But think of the revenge she will have when she is the queen mother tomorrow. She will destroy what is most precious to you. She will have Bharat's life. Kaikeyi's eyes grew round, and Manthra saw that at last her poison had pierced the queen's heart. Kaikeyi's face was flushed. Little gasps of outrage came from her at what she heard from her crooked maid. Her delicate body quivered with suspicion, and at last she whispered, You are right, and I thank you for opening my eyes. But if I have my way, it is Ram who will be banished and Bharat who will be crowned. But how, Manthara, how? Think, old woman, think hard, or everything is lost. Manthara smiled grimly. Kaikeyi was one, the rest would be easy. The hunchback said slowly, I thank the guards for opening your eyes. I thank the guards for opening your eyes to the danger that threatens you. But listen, I know how you can have Bharat crowned and Ram exiled. There is something you have forgotten, which I remember. Once, many years ago, the king granted you two boons because you saved his life. Spoiled, impulsive Kaikeyi, who had by now inexorably chosen the path of evil for herself, remembered. It was a war between Deva and Asuras, between Indra and Sambhav, the great demon of those times. Indra was embattled and asked Dashrath to come to fight at his side. A young man then Dashrath had gone at once. It was soon after he married his third and the most beautiful wife, Kaikeyi. He could not bear to be apart from her, nor she from him. He had taken her with him. But no dharma bound the Asuras. They attacked Dashrath's camp in stealth one night and killed most of his guard. Dashrath faced them single handedly and took great toll of the demons. But he was outnumbered and sorely wounded with dark arrows, fell unconscious. Kaikeyi ran out from her tent. With strength more than a woman has, she lifted her husband in her arms and carried him from the battle while Asur barbs whistled around her ears. Then the devas arrived and the demons were given away. Kaikeyi nursed Dashrath back to health. When he was well and knew what had happened, he said to her, I grant you two boons, my love, whatever you want, even my life, because you have saved it. But Kaikeyi, so much in love, had laughed. That you are alive is my greatest boon, and that will do for me just now. But perhaps one day, when I am in need, I will remind you of your promise. From that day, she had been Dashrath's favorite queen. When they came home from war, Kaikeyi told her twisted maid light-heartedly how she saved Dashrath's life and what he had promised her. Mantra had also laughed with her then, but she carefully stored what she heard in her black heart. Knowing life and how long it is, she knew the two boons could prove useful one day. Kaikeyi had forgotten all about them until now when Mantra reminded her. The queen's eyes flashed, and Mantra wheezed gleefully. One boon will send Ram into the jungle, and the other will see Bharat crowned. Kaikeyi embraced the old monster, crying, What would I do without you? Mantra said, Make haste now. The king will come shortly to give you his great news. Enter the chamber of sorrow, put on soiled clothes, stain your face with tears, and let him find you crying on the ground. Don't speak to him at first, but show him your woman's anger. He loves you, Kaikeyi, and you must take advantage of that tonight if Bharat is to be king. This will be a trial by fire. Pass through the flames, and your victory will be long and sweet. Falter, and you and your son shall be lost forever. Remember, Bharat's life depends on what you do tonight. Dashrath will try to win you over with sweet words of love and with gifts. Do not be moved, Kaikeyi. Be silent until he promises you anything you asked for. Then remind him of the boons. Call his word as a Kshatriya is to stand before you in Dharma and tell him what you want, that Ram be banished and Bharat crowned Yuvraj. You must not weaken, child. This night is for strength. Let your heart be made of stone tonight, and let your purpose govern what you say and do. Kaikeyi nodded when Mantra had finished. Evil had taken hold of her completely, and it was doubly sad because it was well known in Ayodhya how this queen adored Ram. But now cunning fate darkened her mind, so she hardly knew what she did. And Mantra, evil's agent or fates, ruled her weakness. Kaikeyi hugged the hunchback again. My beautiful Mantra, no one loves me as you do. Your body is bent, but your heart is full of light. I will always remember this. When my Bharat is king, I will adorn your hump with golden ornaments. Mantra hissed. There is no time for all that now. The task is at hand. Kaikeyi went into the Krodh Graha. That is like it's also called a Kop Bhavan. It looks like the kings, they had that so that the king will know that the queen is in anger. So Krodh Graha, the chamber of anger. She tore the silks from her lissom body. She ripped the flowers from her hair, the jewelry from her throat and her arms in a frenzy and flung them from her. She wept at will and black coal ran down her fair cheeks. She threw herself on the floor and cried to her deformed woman. There is no question of faltering Mantra. If Ram does not go to the forest and if Bharat is not crowned, I will kill myself. Kaikeyi lay sobbing. She was like a lovely Kinnar woman, her punya exhausted, who had been cast down into the mortal world. So this is the end of this chapter. So I'm sure you're all very much familiar with this episode from childhood, all the sometimes from the movies, sometimes from the shows, sometimes the skits. or even Ram Leela, which we used to watch when we were little, right? So, so any question, comment? Okay, if you don't, let's do the next one. The long night. It was late when he finished looking over the preparations for Ram's coronation. He's talking about Dashrath. Then Dashrath came to Kaikeyi's apartment. It was with her that he spent most of his nights. Tonight he came with news that he was sure would fill her with joy, because Dashrath knew how much Kaikeyi loved Ram. Usually she would be waiting for him. But tonight the guard said the queen is in the Krodh Grah. It was the first time Kaikeyi had ever entered the chamber of anger. Dashrath rushed to her. He threw open the door. The darkened room was lit by 2 oil lamps. He saw his lovely queen askew on the floor. She wore a gown made of coarse cloth. Her long hair was loose and disheveled. Her ornaments and flowers lay where they had been flung, glimmering in the lamplight, and she lay with her face in a pool of tears. Her kohl smeared across her cheeks. She crooned to herself, tracing patterns in her tears with a finger like a mad woman. Dashrath took her hand. Kaikeyi, what happened? Are you ill? She pulled her hand away and gnashed her teeth. She did not speak. Who has hurt you, my love? I will have his head. I cannot bear to see you like this. My life is made of your smiles, and you know it. Kaikeyi, please talk to me. She lay where she was. Her eyes blazed briefly. When Dashrath knelt on the floor beside her, anything you want from me, you can have, he cried. Only tell me what it is. Now she spoke slowly, and her words were clear and full of a woman's wrath. She never turned her face to him, but said quietly in a dangerous voice, no one has hurt my lord, but there is something I do want like my very life, and only you can give it to me. The king smiled in relief. He would give her anything. I love you more than I do anyone except Ram. I swear on Ram's life that I will give you whatever you want. Just ask me quickly and put an end to this torment. Ask Kaikeyi. Ask me now. She uncoiled herself from the floor like a cobra. Dashrath saw madness in her eyes and such evil that he recoiled from her. Like a serpent, she spoke to him in a terrible voice he did not know. Let Indra and the Devas be my witness. Let the sun and the moon be my witnesses. You have sworn on your precious Ram's life that you will give me whatever I want. She drew a rasping breath and whispered, Dashrath, cast your mind back many years to when Indra called you and you went to war against Samba. Do you remember the night you fell wounded with demons' arrows and I saved your life? That night you said to me that you gave me 2 boons. Whatever I wanted, do you remember? She raised herself and brought her face close to his. Sick to his heart that she was so distraught, Dashrath nodded. He was anxious for the ordeal to be over. He saw the suffered and he suffered with her. She paused to stare at him. She moistened her lips with the tip of her tongue. Still in her fell new voice, he said, I said then there was nothing I wanted, but I would remember the boons and avail of them in a time of need. Dashrath, tonight is the time of my need. Tonight I want my 2 boons. With no inkling of what she might ask, the king nodded again. He would honor his word. Let her ask him quickly, but she wanted to be sure. If you break your word to me tonight, I will take my life. I have said You can have whatever you want, Kaikeyi. Have I ever broken my word to you or to anyone? She took a deep breath and said softly, "Listen then, my lord, to what I want. You have prepared Ayodhya for a coronation tomorrow to crown Ram Yuvraj. The two boons I ask for are that Bharat be crowned in Ram's place and that Ram be banished to the Dandak Van for 14 years." He saw the reflection of the oil lamps dancing in her dilated pupils. At first, he did not seem to realize what she had asked. She said, "Dashrath, your dharma is a legend. Don't break your word to me and disgrace your ancestors and the house of Ikshvaku." Then it dawned on him. Dashrath keeled over where he knelt. When he regained his senses, he passed his hands over his eyes to see if he was dreaming. Kaikeyi made no move to help him up. She crouched in the lamplight, a beast of darkness, her eyes alight with the mania of her purpose. The king whispered, "Am I dreaming or have I lost my mind? Is this a memory from another life which has escaped into this one? What demon has entered my heart and makes me imagine I hear abominations from my Kaikeyi, things she can't have said?" He got up and stood bemused, looking down at his wife in disbelief. When he saw how balefully she glared back at him, he knew she meant every word she had said. His legs were weak and could not carry him. He sat down. Then he lay on the floor, and merciful unconsciousness took him again. She rose and stood coldly over him, waiting, her heart set on what she wanted. While the lamps burned down, Dashrath awoke again, now in more anger than sorrow. He said to her, "You are the cruelest woman in the world. I did not know you at all during the years of love I lavished on you. You are evil and you are determined to destroy me. Serpent, tell me how Ram has wronged you. He treats you as much like his mother as he does Kaushalya. Then why do you hate him? Just a month ago, you said to me, Ram is not only your first son, he is mine as well. What happened to that love? Who poisoned your mind, Kaikeyi? So you now speak of sending your son into the forest for 14 years? Why do you want to snatch my life from me, when not many years are left of it anyway? Perhaps your mind is afflicted with some passing madness tonight. Look, Kaikeyi, I fall at your feet. Think again of what you ask." He laid his head at her feet, pale as lilies. She drew away in contempt and said, "For long years you have deceived me with the honeyed talk, but tonight I hold you to your sacred word. You come from a line of which it was said of old that the ocean honored the bounds of his shores, but the dharma of the Ikshvaku kings. Dashrath, how will you tell your people that you granted me two boons for saving your life, only to break your word as soon as I asked you to keep it?" Dashrath wept like a child, but she raged on. "I know that once Ram is crowned, you will go back to Kaushalya's arms. But be warned, I will not live through this night if you refuse me what I ask. Here is the poison I will drink and end myself in despair that my husband was a liar." She showed him a darkling vial. Dashrath mumbled Ram's name over and over to himself like some mantra. He cried desperately, "You are not my Kaikeyi. You are a fiend that has possessed my innocent queen. Why else would you want Ram banished? But I tell you, whoever you are, Bharat will not accept the kingdom. He will not stand by and see his brother exiled." He moaned like a wounded animal, and a sweat of shock shone on his face. Just this morning, before all the people, I said I would crown Ram Yuvraj. What will I tell them he has done? That now I banish him to the forest instead? What will I tell Kaushalya, whom I have neglected for so many years, from my love for you? And Sita, what will I say to the flower like Sita? Monster, you mean to be the ruin of us all. And when we are dead, you can rule Ayodhya with your son. Ah, these are the sins of past lives being visited on me. I have not sinned in this one to deserve such punishment. You speak to me of killing yourself. Listen to me, demon. The sun may not shine anymore. Indra may not moisten the earth with rain, and still the world may continue, but Dashrath's life will leave his body the moment Ram leaves for the forest. Again he fell at her feet. Relent, Kaikeyi, it isn't you who wants this dreadful fate for us all. Know your own heart and relent while there is still time. But she would not. All night Dashrath hovered between a swoon of insupportable anguish and ravaged waking. He begged her repeatedly to relent. Again and again she replied that she would not, she would see Bharat crowned and Ram exiled. Unhinged at times, Dashrath called out to the gods never to let this terrible night end, for only at dawn could Ram be banished. But at others, he begged the sun to rise at once in mercy because he would not bear the company of this she-devil. He was tempted to seek out Kaushalya and Sumitra to share his burden with them. But he said to himself, no, tonight I will bear this grief alone. Let those who have loved me and love Ram sleep in peace for the last time. Finally, sobbing Ram's name, the wretched king fell into a long faint. Kaikeyi sat watching him as a beast watches her prey. The lamps in the room burned out and the night wore on in darkness. So this is the end of this chapter. Any question or a comment? Yes, Urmil, you can unmute yourself.
I learned 5 adjectives for Kaikeyi.
Okay.
Cruelest, serpent, monster, devil.
Yeah. And physically, she was beautiful. She was young.
But the
She loved her son. But it was the mind which got distorted with the company. See?
Yeah. And
So we should be watchful of the company which we keep.
Yes.
No matter how beautiful we are, no matter how good we are, the company makes a big difference. We got to be very watchful. Otherwise, Kaikeyi, she was brave also. And she loved Ram. Just like it said that she loved Ram just like her own son. But the mind can be poisoned. Be careful. Be alert. So this is a lesson we learn. Right? So, I mean, if you think that this was too elaborate, too long, too many emotions, but when you read the Hindi Ramayan, it's even more than that. This is just a summary of the emotions which are depicted by Rishi Valmiki ji.
हर्ष जी एक बात पूछनी है मुझे आपसे.
Sure, in English. But English, because I'm sure there are a couple of people who don't know Hindi in this class. Yes.
So it is said कि मतलब everything happens because it is supposed to happen. That's how the destiny is, है ना? मतलब ये होना ही था. मतलब है ना? तो फिर in the right? तो फिर why do we think that Kaikeyi or Manthra were bad people? Because if this was destined to happen, so one way or another it had to happen.
Yeah, it had to happen because Ram was supposed to go to Lanka and kill Ravan. Destiny was there. But
मतलब अगर वो ना अगर मथुरा की
But we cannot say the mantra was a good person though. Her actions, her thoughts, her conniving nature, the way the whole thing was done, that was not right. Because in the process, so many other people got hurt.
वही तो मैं कह रही हूँ कि this is the way the destiny was supposed to happen. जैसे राम तो भगवान है, उनको तो पता ही था कि ये होने वाला है. So if there was need, if we had to prevent this cruelty, this could have been done in another way, because Ravan जैसे और राक्षसों को जैसे मरीचि और मरीचि नहीं, वो जो दो विश्वामित्र जी के he killed those two राक्षस,
Subahu and Marich. Yeah.
Marich है ना, उनको when he killed them, so he didn't need an excuse. He killed them because they were messing up the rishis havans, right? Havan kund mein. So similarly, he could have gone and attacked Ravan and killed him, right? I mean, like, so this is like a drama that God has created. So it's interesting.
Yeah, because the other participants in it, they had their own karmas in there too.
Right.
Right.
Okay, because
Well,
everybody's
karmas got played out.
Everybody's karmas got to come out. Okay.
In synopsis, I'm just saying that when you think about it, then you think all this rigmarole, the drama and everything, just because जो होना है वो तो होना ही है, right? तो फिर हम मथुरा को भी नहीं blame कर सकते, because उन्होंने भगवान.
And you know, the people who are higher up in this ladder of realization, they don't get shaken up as much. Okay, like Rishi Vashishta, he knew ye hona hai. Rishi Vashishta told Dashrath long before that this will happen, because he was a Drishta. Did he get shaken up? He did not. King Janak, the greatest of the Karma Yogi, did he get shaken up? No, he did not. Did Sita get shaken up? No, she did not. Did Ram? No. So according to our own evolution, spiritual evolution I'm talking about, we can take these news, even these days, it's not only Ram's life, our life, there are ups and downs in our lives, and according to our own growth, either we get shaken up or we can take it boldly. This is going on all the time. See, in Ram, we'll see, when he hears this news, even though they try to change his mind, they don't go like a Kaushalya did, Lakshman did, but he did not stop. He says, I got to stay on the path of the Dharma. Yes, Jyoti.
Poonam has a
Harshji,
to say.
I was thinking that Kaikeyi had this lady at her side from day one. And they keep on, the book says that only today she was able to pierce through her. I feel that if you have that company forever, which is like almost a kind of an evil company, I don't think Kaikeyi to be that kind of a nicer person, because if this is the first time that she listened to her, it seemed like improbable if you have just grown up with that person.
No, but it does mention that the mantra had that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
She was always bitter, always angry, but she really could not control this much. But she
was always connected, and the company of Kaikeyi all the time.
Yeah.
From childhood, I think she was the maid or whatever, and then all her life she was with this person.
Yeah. Yeah, all the life, and that's why if you look at Kaikeyi's relationship with Kaushalya was not very cordial either.
Yeah.
So that would be the effect of mantra. She kept poisoning her mind.
Yeah.
Okay, because we don't know day to day happenings. We really don't know. But right now it was at a lot was at stake. So mantra really played a big role. Yeah. Otherwise, maybe here and there going, she might have said a few things. जैसे कहते हैं ना कान भरने.
Yeah.
So she must have done it because she was known for that.
She was Dashrath's favorite. I keep
Yes.
coming back to that. So how many shortcomings does he have? Right there.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Jyoti, who else has a question?
Niru, you have to unmute yourself. There
Yeah.
you go.
Hershji, when we say that the Lord Rama and Sita and they all were very liberated people, so they knew what is coming. It was destined. But maybe Kaikeyi and Mantra were destined to grab a bad name in this world.
Could be, I don't know.
It was supposed to happen through them.
But bad name, why? Because of their own karmas, though.
Yeah, because of their
It's
karmas.
not that they were good and something bad happened to them.
Yeah.
Okay?
So they were
Actually,
for
they had
their
the poor karma.
bad karam, and then they were supposed to be punished this way, that they will be remembered.
Exactly, because why a person does bad things? Because there's some kind of a bad inclinations in that personality. So because we read that, I read it very clearly that Valmiki's Ramayan, how Kaikeyi mistreated Kaushalya and other queens also. So she was not nice to them. Sure, she loved Ram. Dashrath did not even visit after Kaikeyi came into the palace. Dashrath did not even visit Kaushalya. So it's like if Kaikeyi has a bad name now, it's not just from one action, I would say. There were a lot of other actions in her personality. Sure, she was physically beautiful. That was also, physical beauty also was given to her because of some good karmas too. See, we are all combination of good and not so good. And
That's what I wanted to add to Tripat's question, that why did this whole drama has to happen?
Yeah.
Everybody is acting according to their karmas.
According to their own nature, they are acting, and we always have the choice, freedom we always have to act like that or not to act like that. We cannot say that Kaikeyi was supposed to act like this. The story could have been different. We cannot say that Kaikeyi was so great that because of Kaikeyi, so the whole thing happened and Ravan got killed. No. Kaikeyi definitely did something very, very wrong. Hurt so many people. And why? Because of the selfishness in her. I mean, if she wanted Bharat to be king, Ram was ready to give the kingdom to Bharat. But look at it, sending a young man, 27-year-old, with the wife to the jungle for 14 years. And 14 years is not a small time. And the jungles were not like they were gone there to camp. The jungles were they were ferocious animals over there. They were Rakshas over there. I mean, now when we read, sure, okay, all right, they went there. It's okay. 14 years. I mean, think about it, how long of a time 14 years is.
So basically, maybe she was sending him to his own death in her own mind then.
Yeah, exactly. Then, that he will never come back.
Then where was that love that we keep on reading? She loved him. Okay, she can banish him, but she's sending him to in her own mind, sending him to his death.
Yes,
so,
she just wanted Bharat to be the king, and she wanted to be the Maharani over there. And
so what love was there? What love? No, what kind of love was that?
No, Poonam, lot of times we also say we love somebody. And in this, another day we can talk bad about that person too. So that was that kind of a love. It was not all pure love.
Yeah, that kind of a love.
That love could be a calm, love could be a vyapar, and love could be a love. Right? That kind of a love, how many people can do it? That love Hanuman did, or Shabri did, or Vibhishan had it for Ram. That's a love. Kaikeyi's love is not love. Sure, we all say that to many people. I mean, so many relationships say love you thousands of times. What happens on Valentine's Day, and next day what happens if you don't get the right bouquet of flowers? What
Oh,
The
you
happens?
mean
the worst part is
you
when
mean
we go to
when we
weddings.
say bye, I love you, that kind of love.
Yeah. So maybe Kaikeyi's love was like that. Real
Right.
love would have never changed and sent him to the deep forests, jungles, where there was almost a chance for him to, just like Poonam said, get killed. 14
नहीं
years.
हर्षी जब वेडिंग की वो जाते हैं ना जब भी रिसेप्शन पे तो फिर लड़की और लड़का आते हैं oh the moment I laid eyes on him I knew this was my life partner और 2 साल के बाद डिवोर्स हो जाता है
Those dramas are too old now.
I know.
It's almost like a rehearsed plays. That's all they are. We know that.
You start the Hindi version.
पता लग गया हमें, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a very touching story. Every time I read it, I cry. It's just like a lot of emotions in there, and I'm sure you do too. Okay.
So, Hershi, this is Manju. Namaste.
Namaste, Manju.
So, Ramchandra ji, he was 27 when he left for exile.
Yes.
And he got married when he was 16 or so,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So they were about 10
Oh,
years.
wow.
They were 10 years, and after that, Dashrath thought that coronation should be done, and yeah.
But they had
But now
family
now
planning
you're gonna
until
ask why didn't they have kids in 10 years? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah. So, and what were you saying about Kaushalya? Lord Dashrath didn't care for her anymore.
No.
Not at all.
वो अब जवान रानी मिल गई, so she
So he
was really
mistreated Kaushalya.
controlling him to that extent.
Yeah.
Then he wouldn't. I mean, in Valmiki's Ramayan साफ लिखा है कि after Kaikeyi came, Dashrath Kaushalya के पास गए तक भी नहीं कभी. And Ram saw that. As a young boy, he saw, it's mentioned in there too, कि राम ने अपनी माता को हमेशा रोते देखा. And
Wow.
अब माँ को छोड़कर जा रहा है.
Oh.
Yeah, and तभी तो राम ने प्रतिज्ञा कर ली थी कि I will never have another wife. हालांकि वो कहते हैं कि राजा लोग दूसरी शादियां करते हैं. He says I will never. सीता को ये प्रॉमिस किया था राम ने. And after Sita was gone, still he said I will not get married again. He could have. He was not that old, because kings, they lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. Because he saw that the impression put in at the time of when you're a child, if your mother is suffering, no child can forget that.
Yeah.
चाहे तुम भगवान ही क्यों ना हो, क्योंकि भगवान अपने आप को भूल जाते हैं कि हम भगवान हैं. They live like us. They go through the emotions.
I mean, none of us knew that, I think. Yes, Atha.
And now you know. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
I
thought-
tell you that there's a lot of human emotions which we see in it, and which we can even relate to some of them.
Thank you.
हम लोग जब अपने माँ बाप को छोड़कर आए इंडिया से, back then America was far away.
Yeah.
How much pain was that for us? I still do not forget that. वहां आश्रम को छोड़कर आना, for me it was the biggest loss. I used to cry every single day. That was almost like a वनवास. और उन दिनों में ये तो था नहीं कि 6 महीने में वापस पहुंच जा, or just have the WhatsApp, the FaceTime, and you all have gone through that. These emotions. उस वक्त what was really like a solid for us? These Ramayans and Gita, these teachings. Duty करनी है. In which stage your life you are going through, stick to those principles, and I'm sure you all did. Right? So do we have time for another one?
Are you doing the Hindi version?
Yeah, doing the Hindi. Sometimes I think we should do only the English, but because Hindi one is very, very long. So, but what do you think?
Let's just keep to this book.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
carry
do the
on doing
English
it.
today. There is the rhythm right now.
Rhythm right now. Let me do. Yeah,
Yeah.
because English. बीच में Hindi वाली आपको बता दिया करूँगी because people who have Hindi do read it on your own, just to see if there's any kind of a deviation from the English to Hindi. Otherwise, if you do only English, because I read Hindi also. Before the class, I always read both of them.
Okay.
And then I don't, wherever I see the deviation, I'll let you know. And the people who want to read Hindi, go ahead. Because I think this author,
I think, yeah, do it that way.
this Ramesh
Do it
Menon
that
has
way.
done a great job actually
Yeah.
to bring out the emotions also. And
Yeah.
he really stayed true to the description which Valmiki put in. And all of you know English anyway. So here and there, I will go back to Hindi also for you. But let's do a little bit more. We're going to do two more. At the Palace, and the next one is the boons of Kaikeyi. Okay, so that we cover a little bit more. So at the palace, at crack of dawn, the sutas began to sing outside the door to wake the king. But the sky was overcast, and the people of Ayodhya wondered that the morning Ram was to be crowned should be so forbidding. It seemed an evil omen on this auspicious day. Soon a grey drizzle began. Kaikeyi prodded the king awake that morning of fate. He hoped to wake from his nightmare to find that was all it had been, and last night a dream. But ugly greed in her eye, his queen said to him, "Don't bring shame on yourself, Dashrath, by breaking your sacred word." He groaned. He awoke trembling. His eyes darted around the room, now filling with wan light. Dashrath whispered, "Let Ram be prepared to perform tarpan for me with the water meant for the Abhishek." He looked im- im- imploringly at Kaikeyi. She wore finery once more. Ornaments glittered on her body. She shook him roughly and cried, "Enough. Day has dawned. Send for Bharat and have him crowned. Let Ram leave for the forest." Meanwhile, Vashisht and his Shishyas arrived in the palace for the coronation. Despite the drizzle, the streets of Ayodhya were filled to bursting. The people sang and chanted Ram's name. Vashisht said to Sumantra, "Go and tell Dashrath, the fire is kindled and the Muhurat is near." Humming under his breath, Sumantra arrived in Kaikeyi's chambers. He said to Dashrath, "My lord, everything is ready for Ram's investiture and the people await you." Dashrath turned to face his Sarathi. Sumantra was startled to see Dashrath's eyes were red and swollen. In a voice that had aged years in a night, the king said, "You make my tears flow, Sumantra." Kaikeyi turned imperiously to the charioteer. "The king wishes to speak privately to Ram before the coronation. There's nothing to worry about. Just that my husband spent a sleepless night. Go and fetch Ram here." Pleased to believe her rather than what his eyes saw on his master's face, Sumantra went to fetch Ram. Karkataka, the great crab, would soon rise on the horizon, and the moon was already in Pushyami. Sumantra hurried on his way. People in the streets, the crowd that eddied around the palace like a muted sea, cried to him, "Where is the king? Why hasn't he come out yet? It is almost time for the coronation. Is he asleep on this great day?" As he parted their tide with his chariot, Sumantra cried back to them, "Dashrath wants to see Ram alone before the crowning, but I will tell him of your impatience." He was a popular figure, and waving to them, he came to Ram's palace. The tusker Shatrunjay, beautifully caparisoned, raised his trunk to greet Sumantra within the flower-decked gates. Sumantra smiled to himself at the thought of Ram on the elephant's back. Ambling through the ecstatic crowd to be crowned. Sumantra was shown into Ram's presence. The prince sat in a finely carved chair, wearing white silk. Enchanting Sita sat beside him with a champer whisk in her hand. Sumantra bowed deeply and said, Ram, the king summons you to the Queen Kaikeyi's chambers. Ram said to Sita, Mother Kaikeyi wants to bless me. You wait here, Sita. I will return shortly. She said nothing but went with him to the door and watched him leave. Her lips moving soundlessly, she prayed, Indra, Yam, Varun, Kuber, O Lokpalas, watch over my husband on this day of his fortune. How the crowd roared his name when Ram came out into the streets. For the first time, the sun broke through from behind the clouds in broad golden shafts. The people allowed the chariot to pass but slowly. They all wanted to see their prince clearly, and those that could reached out to touch him. The women of Ayodhya, wearing their best clothes and jewelry, sang out his name from the terraces. They threw armfuls of flowers down on the chariot as it made its way to Dashrath's palace. At last, Sumantra cried to the people, Time is short. We will miss the Muhurat if you don't let us through. They parted like an ocean at a prophet's command. The chariot passed through them and came to the king's palace. Now, the next chapter, the boons of Kaikeyi. So, we'll read that one and we'll end it there today's class. Lakshman stood waiting at the lofty palace doors. Ram linked arms with his brother and they hurried along to Kaikeyi's apartment. The princes were announced. Eager as he was to prostrate himself before his father and have his blessing, Ram checked himself when he sensed the tension in that silent chamber. He gasped when he saw Dashrath's face. Kaikeyi stood beside him like an evil spirit. Her lips were set in a thin line and her eyes shone insanely. Ram went forward, fell at his father's feet, and clasped them, then at Kaikeyi's, but she moved away. The king sat where he was, slumped in a chair. He spoke no word of blessing, nor did he stir. His eyes remained shut, as he did not want to see the world any more. But he spoke his son's name in a broken voice, and tears escaped his eyelids, clamped together in some great pain. Ram was confused. He said to Kaikeyi, Have I done something to annoy my father? Or is he unwell? Is there bad news of Bharat and Shatrughan? I should not ask this, but have you quarreled? He heard her speak in a strange, distant voice, which was scarcely her own. You haven't annoyed him, nor is there any bad news from your brothers. Your father has something to tell you, but the words don't leave his lips. But I will tell you what he dare not say. Once this king granted me 2 boons for saving his life, whatever I chose. Last night I asked him to keep his word, but he would rather break it now. Ram wondered at the harshness of her. There was such malice in her tone. But you, Ram, can keep your father's oath. If you say you will, I will tell you what I asked him for. Dashrath sat turned to stone, only the tears leaked on from his eyes. Ram cried, You don't have to ask me, mother. I would gladly kill myself to keep my father's word. I think you know that, Kaikeyi said without emotion. I want Bharat to be crowned in your place and for you to spend 9 years and 5 more in the Dandak one, wearing tree bark and deer skin like a rishi. Her lip curling, she asked, Would you do this to keep your father's honor? For he, I think, will never ask you himself. Dashrath groaned feebly, but Ram's eyes did not so much as flicker. Without a moment's hesitation, he said, Of course, I will go to the forest if you want me to. Why is there such conflict over this? Or that Bharat is to be crowned? It only pains me that my father thought he would hurt me with this happy news. Let us send messengers at once to Kaikeyi to fetch my brother home. Kaikeyi said coldly, "You can leave the sending of messengers to me. You need not be in Ayodhya when Bharat returns. The king is so grief-stricken that one son of his shall be crowned and not the other, that as long as you are here, he will not make Bharat Yuvraj. The sooner you leave for the forest, the better." Ram whispered, "Sanatan Papam." Dashath swooned in his chair and Ram
What?
sprang to him.
What is that? Sanat Papa.
It's just like he only whispered. See, I did not see equivalent to that in the Hindi book. So I think this is this author's imagination. Like
I
he said,
think it says Shantam Papam.
Shantam Papam.
Yeah. Maybe it is just telling evil, be quiet.
Iti Shanti, Shanti ho. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know why Papam. So, but I did not see that. There's no equivalent to this in Hindi book. Okay. So Dashrath swooned in his chair and Ram sprang to him. Now Ram's eyes were full as he turned to Kaikeyi and said quietly, "Mother, you have not understood me. I'm not anxious to have the kingdom. I never was. Didn't you believe that if you asked me yourself, I would gladly have gone away for your sake? It pains me that you doubted my love for you. I will go at once, and have no fear. I will not come back for 14 years. But I must see my mother Kaushalya and convince her that this is no tragedy but God's way for me, and a blessing for one as fond of the wild places of the earth as I am." Dashrath wept again. Ram fell at his father's feet once more and touched his lips and his head to them. Then he touched Kaikeyi's feet and, rising quickly, walked out of the room. Behind him, he heard his father break down, calling his name, sobbing like a child. Lakshman came out with his brother, but his face twitched in rage and hot tears had sprung in his eyes. Ram linked his arms in Lakshman's. When he thought of seeing Kaushalya and breaking this news to her, even Ram felt weak. He steadied himself and his face showed no sorrow but was as radiant as ever. They walked through the sabha of the coronation, past the giant turns filled with water from the sacred rivers of Bharatvarsh for the Abhishek. Ram's pang for his mother passed. He did not so much as glance at the urns, nor at the white parasol beside the throne, nor the long whisks of silk thread at the doors, but came straight to Kaushalya's apartment. His mind was calm and had just one thought: how he would soften the blow for her. Ram was accosted by some that he knew along the way. He spoke amiably to them and carried on. Beside his brother, Lakshman controlled himself. But word had leaked from Kaikeyi's apartment already, at, at Manthra's shrewd instigation, and spread like fire through the palace. As they neared Kaushalya's chambers, the princes heard cries of shock from the women of the harem. "Ram banished? For what? It's just an evil rumor. Has Dashrath taken leave of his senses? Ram banished to the forest? Today is Ram's coronation." Through the walls, along the winding passages, they heard cries of dismay as the news caught and burned along. But they arrived before the news at Kaushalya's apartment. Ram was as unmoved by what he heard around him as an Ashwatha tree is by the cries of the birds in its branches. The old guard at his mother's door sprang up. He came toward the princess, crying, "Jai Vijay Bhav." Ram smiled at him and moved on into his mother's rooms. Kaushalya had spent the night in prayer. She sat before Narayan's image, pouring libations onto the fire for her son's fortune. Ram stood watching her offering argha. As always, she wore thin silk. Her face glowed from the flames before her gracious features chiseled by the sorrows of the years. Ram looked at his gentle mother and he knew that in her life she was the single light. He knew it was years since her husband had seen her at all, so lost had he been in Kaikeyi's charms. Okay, so over here it's just like a 2 lines, but when you read the Valmiki's Ramayan, you see
Wow.
a couple of chapters about this.
Mm.
But his mother had never said a word to Ram against Kaikeyi or his father. Okay, because she was mature, deep, but sorrow was there. She was lonely. Kaushalya became aware of Ram and her face lit up with the same joy he saw on it whenever he visited. She rose and came to him. He stood before her with his hands folded and his heart faltering. He knelt at her feet, as much to delay what he must tell her as for her blessing. She blessed him, laying both her soft palms on his head. Then she raised him up, and her eyes were moist. My noble child, may all heaven's blessings be upon you. Today your father will crown you, Yuvraj, and I know you will prove a worthy heir to the Ikshvaku throne. May the gods help you be as great a king as all your ancestors. Always be loyal and kind to your father, even after you are crowned. He loves you more than his life. She clasped him to her. She felt him tremble. With a cry, she held him at arm's length. My son, you are shaking. Are you ill? At once Ram grew calm. Yet when he spoke to her, his eyes avoided hers and sought the floor at his feet. But his voice was steady as he said softly, Mother, I must leave you to go away to the Dandakwan. For 14 years I must live in the forest to honor my father's boon to Kaikeyi. But still rejoice because your son Bharat is to be crowned Yuvraj. At first she did not seem to know what he had said. He saw the shock in her eyes only when he had finished, and he leaned forward and caught her as she fell. He picked her up in his arms, easily as he might a child, and set her down in a jeweled chair. He sprinkled some water that Lakshman fetched on her face, and she stirred again as he knelt beside her. Ram could hardly look into her eyes. So it's like her mother's sorrow he could not take, and we can really relate to it. So real. How will I bear this? Cried Kushalya. Once my only sorrow was that I was a barren woman whom her husband did not love. Oh, I would gladly exchange that sorrow for this one. Your father never loved me. His younger queens had their way with him, and I was neglected. But when you were born, I thought the gods had finally blessed me. I could bear anything then, even the snickering of Kaikeyi and her women. Her women means even her maids, they were mean to her. You are the light of my days, Ram. I cannot live without seeing your face, my son. I have always kept my vrats and worshipped the gods unfailingly, but my prayers have never been in vain. That this must happen to me now. I was born under an evil star, and not all the prayers in the world can change my fate. I must have been a terrible sinner in my past lives, and my heart is made of stone in this one, that it has not yet broken in 1,000 pieces with everything I have endured. And now this, oh no, Ram, this I cannot bear. I will come with you into the Dandakwan. Yes, I have to. She buried her face in her hands, and her frail form shook with sobs. Okay, what do you have to say?
That was sad. I never knew that.
Yeah,
I thought she was the most just woman and had
she
lot of
was
respect from.
just, she
Yeah.
had qualities, she was very mature, but sometimes the mature people also are taken advantage of because not even these days, in the past also, the youth and the beauty. And Kaikeyi came from a very, very rich family. So it's like a prosperity, the wealth, the beauty, and the youth.
A spoiled
बोलते हैं ना
brat.
कि कलयुग में इन चीजों को महानता मिलती है, but it has been happening.
But how can you be so cruel?
Well,
She
yeah,
was,
हमें लगता है ना, how can you be so cruel? But for her, she justified, mantra justified in her mind, and that's why she could convince Kaikeyi.
yeah, she listened to her. No, I mean,
Yeah,
like she didn't
yeah.
use her brain.
Yeah, that's right.
Him.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, हमें लगता है ना कि हालांकि it happened long time ago, but it is so real even today to us.
Yeah.
Every time we
No, but
read,
it King
it's another
Dashrath's
punch. Yes, Jyoti.
Raj Mittal has
Yes,
her
Raj.
hand up.
Hi, Hershji.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. I have question on 3 words that I didn't understand.
Okay.
One was on page 81. It said moon was already in Pushyami.
Yeah, Pushyami, ये जो नक्षत्र होते हैं ना, moon just keeps on, it's just like how it's किस नक्षत्र में है. So Pushyami is one of the nakshatra, and they say that is very auspicious according to the astrologers. Okay.
And
So,
then another word was Tarpana, when Dashrath says that let Rama be prepared to perform Tarpana for me with the water meant for the Abhisheka.
Yeah, tarpan होता है, it's some kind of a, it's like a जब parents मर भी जाते हैं उस वक्त भी तर्पण करते हैं, so offer some water, some rice, all that, so it's like some kind of a ritual he's talking about, the tarpan.
And the last one was on page 84, Ashwatha tree.
Yeah, Ashwatha tree is considered, it's like a mystical tree, and they also say it's in this Swarag also. So when you are sitting under it, that kind of a tree, all your wishes get fulfilled.
Okay.
Okay. Ashwatha is Parijata or Kamadhenu. Or Ashwatha is like a, even ये जो है ना people tree, that's also called a Ashwatha tree. It's so big, it's so beautiful. So any kind of a beautiful tree. Okay.
Okay.
So what was that, Hershji? 9 years of exile, something, and then another 5.
9 and plus 4.
What is that?
Just कई बार होता है ना कि सीधा 14 कहते हैं, उसको बुरा लगा होगा. So she said 9 plus 4.
Okay.
9 plus 5. I'm sorry. 9 plus 5. Right?
Yeah.
कई बार जैसे कहते हैं ना, how old are you?
Right.
We say 40 plus a few months, right?
Right.
Or 39 plus few months. Yeah. So सीधा 14 कहते हैं, उसको अच्छा नहीं लगा. So 9 plus 5.
Namaste, Hershji.
Namaste, Nishi. How are you?
I'm good. Such a sad story. So sad to hear.
I know. It is very sad. This part, I mean, actually the sadness starts from here. And sadness stays
all the way till end.
All the way till end. And Valmiki ji ne jab ye likhni bhi shuru ki thi, I'm sure there's no person who doesn't understand Hindi right now. So Valmiki ji ne jab likhni shuru ki thi, wo sadness se hi to shuru hui thi. When he saw those 2 birds making love, and the hunters shot the bird, one of the bird, male bird, and the female bird could not bear the separation from the mate, and she died over there too. So Valmiki ji witnessed it.
So Hershji, isn't it the purpose of the book to tell us how to get beyond your own sorrows? So if it doesn't bring us the story of sorrows, how will it teach us how to rise ourselves beyond the sorrow?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
The sorrow, that is the purpose of the whole book, that the sorrows are coming, because when good times are coming, we don't need the book. We are fine.
Yeah.
But only when the sorrows are coming, we need the book. And it has to show us how the hero of the book raised himself beyond the sorrows. I guess that is the part of the whole purpose of the book.
See, there's a whole, just like Poonam said, the whole sorrowful story, everybody is reacting to it differently.
Yeah.
Right? Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, Sita, Ram, the mothers, they all acted differently. So the same thing happens in our life also. There are sorrows and there's a joy. That's what life is. That's why it's called a duality. Good times and not so good time. But how do we react to it?
Firstly, I have a question.
Sure, Nishi.
I mean, it's not really, I mean, question, but something to discuss is that, you know, they did not, if you see the imbalance between intellect and dharam, I mean, at that time they were so bound by maine vachan diya hai, and I have to keep the vachan, although everything was, you know, in the vachan was cruel and unjust. And he preferred to keep his word rather than, they all preferred to keep the word rather than do the right thing, which I think dharam was more dharam, according to what I see, was that Ram should have been
we'll
king.
read about that after a couple of chapters. The way of dharma, you will see that it's one of the chapters over here, because to be truthful to your word is also a dharma.
Right. But if it is the balances, on the other hand, doing so, making everyone so miserable.
पर वो तो फिर वो जो वचन देने वाला है, उसको सोचना चाहिए था ना, कई ने नहीं सोचा ना ये। दशरथ ने तो वचन दे दिया, कई ने कहा अब मैं ये वचन, this is the time for me to take that word, that boon from you. पर कई ने अगर नहीं सोचा कि कितने लोगों को दुख होता है, या कई ने नहीं सोचा ना, इसमें ना राम का कसूर है ना दशरथ का कसूर है, इसलिए राम और दशरथ पूजे जाते हैं।
कसूर तो नहीं है, पर इंटेलेक्ट यूज नहीं किया।
कभी आज तक किसी ने अपनी बेटी का नाम ककेई रखा है?
No. Oh, she was really hated, right?
Yeah, she was, yeah, right, because of her actions.
Right.
बाकी सुमित्रा भी मिल जाएगी, उर्मिल भी मिल जाएगी, सीता भी मिल जाएगी, all those ladies, कौशल्या भी, right?
Right.
So because
very
of the
sad, but very sad story.
Yeah, it is sad, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this.
Well, many stories, just Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, they all had a twist. Stepmother ka, Cinderella working and then getting the golden slippers, silver slippers. So every of those stories has a mother or a stepmother or somebody. So Kaikeyi is another character created to put the twist in this whole story. And I looked in the dictionary for the meaning of Shantam Papam. It is more of a colloquial word. It's not an official Sanskrit word. But what it means is like prayer. Bas karo, bhul jao. Prayer to forget and forgive wicked deeds and to soothe and shake off anger.
Okay, so maybe little bit anger was coming and he just wanted to shake it off.
Yeah.
क्योंकि अपने father को इतना anguished देखकर, इतना I mean, otherwise इतना राजा, इतना बड़ा, and he's crying, sobbing. I mean, it must have been the whole scene must have been pretty heartbreaking.
So Kaikeyi कहती है ना कि the sooner you leave, the better. तो उसकी reply में मन में कहता है ठीक है तुम्हें सूद करने के लिए सब होगा.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Shantam Papam.
Yeah, because she wanted him to leave as soon as possible. Not even another day to be there.
Bharat usko change na kar de
That
mind.
is the saddest part. That Dashrath gave the boons, and that not only affected his life, mainly the sufferer was Ram. How could
Ram and Sita and Lakshman and Urmil,
that's what
everybody was a
the
sufferer.
other people were.
But learn from this that suffering, they did not take it as suffering. Sometimes physically we think it's a suffering, but it could be a boon. Because of that sacrifice, Ram और सीता और लक्ष्मण की पूजा होती है. Okay? Even after, I mean, कितने हजारों सालों के बाद भी कितने मंदिर हैं राम के. अगर राम ने उस वक्त कहा होता ये तो सौतेली माँ, इसका मैं क्यों कहना मानूं? I should be the king now. My father said that I'll be the king. Father is not saying ना जाओ ना जाओ. आजकल के बच्चे तो यही करेंगे ना.
But it is unbelievable that Dashrath gave.
Yeah, but he just said no. मेरे